If you're lucky, by the time you run, you will have created a network of individuals that could give you access to polling information. Now, when I talk to about polling information, I don't mean the polls you see on TV where they say the Liberals are ahead of the NDP by so many points. That's not what I'm talking about. Although, we pay attention to those too, of course. But what I'm referring to in this situation is the polling that's done in your riding among the different neighborhoods to find out where the strongholds are in your riding of conservative voters. Because what they don't want to do, there's so many doors you've got to knock on, right? So we want to put you knocking in neighborhoods where there's a likely that you're going to be able to ID as many votes as possible. So if we know that traditionally a certain riding has never swung your way, they always tend to be, of a certain party that's not yours, then we just kind of avoid those areas. Because what for, right? If you're only going to be able to avoid, ID 3 votes and you have to knock on 200 doors to get it, not the best use of our time. But if we can put you in a neighborhood where 60%, 70% of people normally vote in your way, we'll be able to ID way more votes in those neighborhoods. So that's where we would prioritize the way you poll. We would prioritize how you knock. So they'll give you specific addresses and they'll say, we want you to knock on every door in this subdivision or in this area. We want you to avoid this area. Don't waste your time. That's why they do that. But then polling goes a step further. So they'll actually be able to advise you on the type of sports that are the most popular in that area, what the medium income level is of that area, what the average employment or education level of that area is. And that is so that you can prepare your team and you on how you to relate to these people. So for example, when you're in an upscale neighborhood and, everybody is kind of nice, then you're going to make sure that you dress accordingly, right? But if you're going to a neighborhood that's traditionally blue collar, then you're going to make sure that you're in more, you're going to put the polo shirt away and put on a t-shirt. You know what I mean? So you want to be relatable to the people that you're about to go see. So you want to make sure that you look appropriately, but you also want to make sure that you know what you're getting into that day so you can refresh your talking points around the issues that matter to that cohort. Right? So that's another reason why you want to pay attention to those polls. And I'll give you one simple example. The last campaign I did, the poll came back, and in the area that we were prioritizing target messaging, one of the things they mentioned was that neighborhood specifically, or that area, did not like hockey, but there was a huge percentage of baseball fans in that neighborhood. So when we were doing videos, right, for my candidate, I had him talk about baseball, not hockey. Because sometimes, you figure, well, Canadian, let's make a hockey reference when we're needing a sports, analogy. Well, don't use hockey. In that situation, people hate hockey. Speak the language they like, which is baseball. So now if you choose baseball as the analogy to go with, the person listening is going to say, he made a reference to baseball, not hockey, not basketball. He must love baseball. This is my guy. And it's that simple. So you want to relate, and these polls can give you really intimate information about the people in that area in terms of where their interest lies so that you can, message accordingly. The thing is that headquarters isn't going to give you access to this stuff. So either you have to have a friend that has a business that does polling, for example, and he'll run a poll for you, or you'll have to have a poll done, and that's anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000, depending on the size and the scope of the poll that you're having done. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. So, but they do matter. They really do help inform messaging. They help the way you do your campaign, what areas you prioritize holding events in, right? You can learn a lot from a poll that will help inform how you move forward in a campaign. And remember that campaigns, the goal is to ID votes. You need to find out how many votes exactly there is that you need to get to win. So it's not just, oh, well, I have to get 51%. No, I've said this in an earlier class, but I'm going to repeat it. You have to know your win number. How many eligible voters are there in your riding? How many parties is that going to be divided up into? So how do you know that? What's the number? I have to have at least 8,243 votes. If I have 8,243 votes, then I know that I won. Now your job is to ID every one of those votes and then make sure they go to the polls. So usually there'll be some kind of tracker system that your party will be using to track your voter ID list, okay? So the goal is to make contact, or your team to make contact with every single person on that list. Make sure that they still are going to vote for you, that they haven't switched teams, because if they have, now we got to replace them with a different voter, right? So we have to know that, of the original voting list we have, how many of these people are still alive, how many still live in the riding, and of the ones that are left, how many are still planning on voting for you, and are they bringing anybody else to the table? Then what ends up happening is after the advanced polls are over, you will find out who hasn't voted yet. So now you'll be able to call all of those people to make sure they go to the polls. And on election day, we have entire teams of people, and all they do is call every single person. Did you vote? 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 To remind them, are you going to the polls? Do you need a ride? We'll send you a ride. We'll send a car. I got a car right here to send you to take you to the polls. So this way nobody has any excuse to say, I can't drive, my car broke down, I'm tired, whatever, I don't want to take the bus. No worries, we'll drive you. So that you can make sure every single one of your ID'd voters actually goes to the polls. It's a huge job. Now that means that when you're building your campaign strategy, with this in mind, you always have to think, because you're going to be invited to all of the things. You're going to be invited to speak at all of the things. But remember, is this going to ID votes? How many votes will I ID at this event? For example, I remember I had a candidate that really, really wanted to go speak at the local college. But we knew that almost everybody at that local, because he's like, we need to get the youth in. We need to get the youth vote. Right. But everybody at that college lives somewhere else, which means on election day, they'll be voting in their home neighborhood at home, which is a different riding than here. So the college students you want to reach are attending colleges in other cities, not this one, right? So the ones in this college aren't worth going to see, because you're going to waste a day, even if they love you. Even if you turn them on to the party, they're not going to vote for you, this candidate, because they don't live in this riding. So why waste your time, right? So you're going to have to be very discerning, and you're going to have to say no to a lot of meetings. And everybody's going to make you think like, if you don't talk to us, you're going to lose this election. There's 8,000 egg farmers and 2,000 peach farmers, and we're the Jam Association of Canada and whatever, and the Preserves and Pickle Association of Canada, whatever. Everybody has an association. They all have thousands of members, but you only have so many days on your campaign. So when are you supposed to fit all these people in? And for what, really? We want to inform you about our industry. Okay, what am I going to do today for you? It's just an election cycle. You know what I mean? You don't have time to listen to the concerns of every business cohort or every whatever cohort on the planet. So you have to be incredibly discerning of who you give your time to. So remember, everything's put through the filter of how many votes will I be able to ID through this function? How many votes will I be able to ID in this neighborhood? And it has to be a lot. So you have to prioritize density, voter ID density. Don't worry about convincing people that are never going to vote for you. When you hit a front door and they're like, oh, you know what? I don't like your party. Then I'm sorry to bother you. Have a great day, sir. And you move on to the next one. There's no point debating someone who's not going to vote for you. There's no point trying to convince somebody that is completely against your policy that you have a great policy. You have to ID votes. So if the person you're in front of says no, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, ma'am. And you move on to the next one. I only care for people that say yes. And the ones that want to keep you there forever, you got to, pull away from that conversation. You want it to be quick and easy. Ma'am, I got 200 doors I need to knock on today. I just wanted to make sure that yours was one of them. Thank you so much for your support. Please get there on election day. And thank you, thank you, thank you. And you off to the next one, right? So everything has to be put through the filter of, at the end of my day, how many votes will I ID today? That is your number one priority, which means every decision you make is put through the filter of that. And polls are a real great cheat sheet to show you where to put some of your time and energy or what areas to avoid. So in my opinion, they've always been worth the investment.